Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is what if Naruto has failed the third attempt at his Genin exam. Part 1. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. The Sandaime Hokage looked at the thief with a weary eye. The boy before him just had his head down and stood quietly in the grip of a pair of anbu. He could not believe it had come to this. Barely 2 days before, the boy in front of him had painted the stone faces on the mountain, and now he was captured trying to steal the most valuable scroll in Konoha. What am I going to do with you, Naruto? The aged leader slowly said. Why would you betray me and all of Konoha like this? Uzumaki Naruto looked up at the disappointed face of the one man who was important to him in the entire village. But Mizuki-sensei said it was a makeup test. He told me if I could bring him the scroll I would become a genin. The Hokage narrowed his eyes at Naruto. You mean your teacher told you to do this? Naruto nodded. I couldn't make a bunshin, so I failed. He told me to pass a makeup test I would have to sneak in here and take the big scroll. If I could do that and learn one jutsu on the scroll and show him that I could do it, and he would pass me. Did I do something wrong? The boy looked up with tears in his eyes as he realized from the look in the Hokage's face that he had in fact done something wrong. He had betrayed the trust of his most important person. Sarutobi looked at the blonde boy again and saw the boy was telling the truth. He could not simply destroy the legacy of the fourth based solely on him following the commands of a superior. But he did need to know for certain that the real criminal was captured. Naruto, you will wait here with these anbu. I will go check on something. Where exactly did Mizuki tell you to wait for him? Mizuki chuckled as he headed for the meeting point. There had been no alarm sounded, so that means the demon had not gotten caught. There had been no sign of any traps being sprung, so the demon had to have opened the scroll safely. All that remained now was to gather up the item and kill the demon. This would surely buy his way into Orochimaru's graces once more. He looked down from his perch to see the blonde demon sitting and reading the open scroll. He chuckled before leaping down near the blonde. Good job, Naruto. You got the scroll, I see. Very good job indeed. Now, just roll it up and back away, Mizuki told the blonde. But Mizuki-sensei, I managed to learn a technique like you told me to. Does that mean I get to be a genin now? Mizuki laughed. You actually believed me. Kami, you are a stupid demon. Demon, why are you calling me a demon, Mizuki-sensei? Haven't you ever wondered why people shun you, Naruto? It is because you are responsible for the slaughter of so many 13 years ago. You are the nine-tailed fox trapped in human form. I am going to take that scroll and kill you now. I will have revenge for my family. Mizuki screamed out. The blonde did not look afraid or upset at Mizuki's outburst. In fact, he stood up and looked very disappointed. You should really know better than that, Mizuki. But I think we have heard enough, would you not agree, Hokage-sama? Indeed we have, Iruka, indeed we have. Sarutobi stepped out from behind the building along with a team of anbu. The blonde, Naruto, puffed with chakra smoke, revealing Naruto's other teacher, Iruka. Sarutobi spoke again. You are under arrest, Mizuki. If you resist, these anbu will strike you down. Cooperate and you might actually be free to see your fiancé Tsubaki again one day. Mizuki paused hearing his betrothed's name and surrendered quietly. Sarutobi sighed and stood next to Iruka as the anbu led off Mizuki. Now comes the hard part, Iruka. I have to decide what to do with Naruto. I appreciate your help in this matter and trust to your silence. I know Naruto has become important to you. Yes, he is, Hokage-sama. I had been out looking for him since I could get away from work. I was going to treat him to ramen since he failed his genin test. He tried so hard, but he cannot seem to make a bunshin. I could even see the effort, and I could have sworn I saw chakra around him right before he did a badly deformed clone, Iruka said. Wait, you said you saw chakra around the boy during his test? Iruka nodded affirmatively. But for chakra to be visible like that would indicate Sarutobi trailed off his statement as he looked back toward his office. Uruka, come with me. I want to have you there when I talk to Naruto again. Uruka nodded and followed as Sarutobi leapt back toward the Hokage tower. The Anbu stood watch over Naruto as the boy sat in his misery. The woman in the cat mask was familiar to Naruto as she had been one of his many silent watchers over the years. He had tried to speak to them on occasion, but they always shook their heads at him and indicated they were not permitted to speak to him before falling back into the shadows. She sighed softly behind her mask as this was not a duty she would have liked at any time. She could clearly see the boy had great potential, but somewhere along the line, something had gone wrong. She could sense chakra from him at a level a Chunin would envy. She had filed reports often enough about the pranks he had pulled, and his skills in planning and evasion were easily Chunin level. She assumed no one felt the boy was worth the effort. It really was a shame. The Hokage entered the meeting room followed by Uruka with some files. Kat nodded silently, acknowledging Sarutobi's presence, and moved to wait in the corner. Naruto looked up from where he sat and paled at seeing his primary instructor there as well. He flushed and tried to hide in his seat as Sarutobi sat and motioned for Uruka to sit as well. Naruto, what you told me earlier tonight was entirely correct. Mizuki himself did admit to telling you to come here and take the scroll. In this village, we do not lay the blame on the subordinates for following what they believe to be the legal orders of their superiors. Therefore, you are not to be charged with treason. You trusted Mizuki and he betrayed you. Naruto, I am disappointed in your actions, but you have not betrayed my trust. Sarutobi smiled gently at Naruto. The boy smiled weakly and a few tears ran down his expressive face. Yes, he needed that reassurance. In spite of all his bravado, he is a fragile boy. Uruka opened the file with Naruto's name on it. Naruto's grades in the academy are definitely not the best, Hokage-sama. He has failed the exit examination 3 times now. He grades show him as poor in taijutsu, poor in ninjutsu, inadequate in genjutsu, poor on throwing weapons, inadequate in tracking and evasion, inadequate in stealth, poor in written work. I thought Naruto was doing much better than that in his grades. Sarutobi glanced over at Naruto, who wilted slightly under the glare. Begging the Hokage's pardon, Kat spoke up. Yumino-san is incorrect in Uzumaki-san's ability in stealth, tracking and evasion. I personally have observed several of his pranks, and other Anbu would concur with me that for his training level, his rank should be outstanding. Sarutobi looked over at Kat, equal parts of concern and dismay at her information. Are you sure, Kat? He inquired. As I said, Hokage-sama, Uzumaki-san has shown outstanding ability in regards to stealth, tracking and evasion in his many dealings with the after effects of his pranks. Normally, it takes a Jonin or a half-dozen Chunin working in concert to corral him. We Anbu, who are assigned to observe him, remain away from such things as ordered by you. The sole exception to the trouble in capturing Uzumaki-san is Yumino-san here. He can apprehend the boy on his own. We feel that it is a deliberate action on Uzumaki-san's part in those cases. There have even been cases where he has managed to elude his Anbu watchers for up to 5 minutes as well. He normally is quite aware of our presence nearby, but rarely the exact location. We put that awareness to experience and some innate ability. Uruka, who is the person grading Naruto in the areas of stealth, tracking and evasion? That would be Mizuki, Hokage-sama, Uruka responded. Kat, why is this the first I am hearing about such ability on behalf of Naruto? It has been documented in many reports submitted by myself and others, Hokage-sama. We all assumed you knew and were not showing favoritism in regard to Uzumaki-san. His pranks cause ill will for himself even if they are just attempts at attention. Sarutobi frowned deeply and almost growled as he rose and stalked out of the office. He returned minutes later carrying several files, all labeled Uzumaki Naruto. He passed one to Kat and asked, "Is this one of your reports?" Kat briefly scanned the report. It was regarding a prank by Naruto 2 weeks prior. This is not the report I submitted, Hokage-sama. The general wording is mine, but many details have been edited out and the amount of damage incurred has been altered. In this incident, only a single vendor's cart was touched, not a half dozen as the report states. There was no damage to the vendor's wares and this report states near complete destruction. Sarutobi had a true frown on his face now. Your reports all go through Koga-san, cat. Yes, Hokage-sama. He is one of Danzo's former root members. It seems several people are trying to get Naruto into bad graces all over. But one rabbit might have flushed one another out for me. Danzo has a standing request to have Naruto assigned to his training program. I have consistently forbidden such a thing. The fourth would roll in his grave if I did that to Naruto. Sarutobi sighed. Cat, round up several of the others who have filed reports on Naruto whom you trust. In the morning, I want you all to go over all of your past reports filed on Naruto in my office over the past 2 years. I wish to know the truth on what they say against what you actually wrote. Naruto, tomorrow we are going to have all of your skills re-evaluated by people I trust in all the areas not taught by Iruka alone. Be back here at noon tomorrow. I'll escort Naruto home and bring him back here in the morning, Hokage-sama, Iruka offered. Sarutobi just nodded. The teacher led his student out of the building. Come stay at my house tonight, Naruto. Things are going to be bad tomorrow and keeping a close eye on you might be the best thing right now. Why are things going to be bad, Ikura-sensei? Asked Naruto. Because some people have done the worst possible thing to do in Konoha, they intentionally lied to the Hokage. It also looks like they did the second worst as well. Koga walked into his office to begin another boring day of work. Being a secretary in the Hokage Tower was not a glamorous job for a former ninja and root agent, but he could think of worse. At least the new academy class graduating would mean he could funnel a few of the more promising of the true test failures to his master Danzo, en route. He saw a lower-ranked secretary waiting there for him, behind his desk. Ah, Koga-san. Hokage-sama is waiting for you to discuss your new job. I was assigned to take over your old job this morning. It seems you are being promoted. Koga was surprised but pleased. He did work hard at his job. It was good to hear that his efforts would be rewarded. Smiling to himself, he hurried up the stairs to find out where his new position would be. Koga arrived at the top of the tower to wait for a few minutes before the Hokage's main secretary to usher him into the Hokage's office. He bowed before the Hokage and waited as Sarutobi pulled out a scroll and a pair of folders from his pile of paperwork. Ah, Koga-san. I am glad you came up here so promptly. We have need of a quality man to fill a new position that just opened up in our liaison office with the daimyo and your name was brought to my attention. I am flattered, Hokage-sama. May I ask what the new position entails? Of course. Just a moment. Sarutobi turned to his intercom. Could you bring in that tea and coffee I had asked for earlier, Yum? Of course, Hokage-sama, the secretary replied in a pleasant voice. Koga paid no attention to the door opening behind him. Suddenly, he stiffened as he lost all control of his movements. A blond man wearing a Genin vest stepped in front of him and made a hand sign before his face. Yamanaka. I must. Ah, Inoichi, Shikaku, right on time. Inoichi, please have Koga-san be seen leaving the main gate toward the capital. I do not want Danzo and his cronies getting wind that one of his spies has been caught just yet. I will have the paperwork of his mission filed immediately. Once Koga is seen leaving, get him to Ibiki as soon as you can. Kat sat in the file room with 3 other masked Anbu operatives. The Hokage's secretary, Yum, had shown them the correct cabinet with reports that mentioned the Uzumaki boy. Dozens of incident reports filled 2 drawers in a single cabinet. Kat looked through the cabinet and pulled out the ones she had personally filed reports on. She glanced at the first one and shook her head as she saw the large amounts of editing that had been done to her report. She took out a pad of paper and began to take notes. The file she was reading was on a stink bomb incident months before. The noxious substance Naruto had used did in fact cause a store to close while the air was blown out of the building. The owner had thrown Naruto out for simply asking how much something cost a day earlier. Kat distinctly recalled the foul odor and that it had done nothing beyond fouling the air. But the damage report was severely inflated beyond closing the store. It showed that an acidic compound had been used and damaged a large portion of the man's wares. The Hokage office, being officially responsible for Naruto, had authorized payment to replace the damaged goods. Kat was impressed by the amount listed. She looked into several other prank cases and noticed in all cases that money was being paid out for damages that had never happened. She listed every amount on her pad. The other operatives noticed what she was writing and began calling out the bogus damage payouts from their reports. After all the reports from the past 2 years alone were tallied, an impressive amount was listed. Wow, if he had actually done the damage these reports listed, we would not have a market district. There is enough money being siphoned out to pay several high-level ninja a hefty salary, Kat thought. This would not happen if the Hokage was not swamped by so many reports each day. Koga has been able to falsify reports for possibly years now. He is not living above the means for his position, so the money is going somewhere else. That is something else for Ibiki to find out. Kat gathered her notes and set off for the Hokage's office. The secretary, Yum, waved Kat directly in to see Sarutobi. Kat bowed, then began her report. Hokage-sama, my fellows and I have examined many reports on Naruto's pranks over the last 2 years. Our preliminary finding are that a pattern of falsehood exists in the reports and that monetary damages being paid out by the treasury exceed any real damage by a factor of 100 or more. In fact, from our own recollections, any damage actually incurred was more from people panicking than from malicious behavior on Naruto's part. Our knowledge of his pranks shows that they are intended to annoy and disrupt rather than hurt anyone or anything. Sarutobi nodded slowly. That last bit falls in line with Naruto's character. He is starved for attention, and even negative attention is better than none. Koga will have a lot to answer for, but we must move quickly. He will be missed soon. Kat, find Kakashi and tell him I need his old team for a secret mission. I will see him this afternoon once I have examined Naruto's performance. Iruka walked in the training hall with Naruto as the Hokage waited with a pair of Anbu bodyguards. Iruka stepped up and bowed to the Hokage. Naruto did as well after a light tap by Iruka. Thanks you for allowing Naruto to demonstrate his skills for you, Hokage-sama, Iruka said. Sarutobi smiled as he knew this would be less of a demonstration as a long embarrassment for the boy, but it needed to be done. Naruto, I know this will be a long, frustrating ordeal for you, but it is needed to see what you know and where you have been taught incorrectly. First, run through the 5 standard katas of the Academy Taijutsu. Naruto looked lost for a moment before Iruka nudged him. Your daily exercise forms, Naruto. Naruto nodded and set himself into a stance but was immediately stopped by Sarutobi. What is that stance, Naruto? Naruto grinned. It's what Mizuki-sensei had me do every day. He said it was a special advanced form just for me while everyone else did the basic stuff. Naruto noticed the scowl on the old leader's face and realized something. Naruto's grin faded as he mumbled, it's not, is it? Do you remember the basic moves, Naruto? Iruka asked. I think so, Iruka-sensei. Naruto then went through what he remembered, but he was awkward and off balance the whole time. Once the boy had finished, he stood quietly as Sarutobi looked on. The aged leader remained silent before nodding slowly. I have seen worse. Now for the 3 basic ninjutsu. Replacement, transformation and clone techniques. I am well aware of your skill with transformation, so we can skip that one. Using the full hand seal sequence you were taught, replace yourself with the bucket of water on the other end of the hall. Naruto looked down. It doesn't work for me if I use the whole sequence I was taught. I was using one I saw the Sasuke use. Sarutobi waved Naruto closer. Show me the hand seals you were taught without applying chakra, Naruto. Naruto stepped closer and slowly went through the seals. The Anbu, bear, broke his silence with a mild curse. Sarutobi, confused, looked at Bear. You recognize that sequence? Yes, Hokage-sama. If he used that sequence, he could make a replacement technique work if he used a small amount of chakra. However, it is actually the sequence for a suicide technique designed to bury the user into the ground if captured. Naruto paled at that, was muttered, I am glad I copied off the tem then. Sarutobi frowned again but continued, now for the clone technique, Naruto. Naruto groaned at hearing that but did as ordered. He made the seals and focused, but like in his Genin test, he produced a single sickly-looking clone. Sarutobi rubbed his chin as Naruto looked downcast. Naruto, I want you to try again for me, but do something different. Use the same amount of chakra but focus on making 50 clones, not just one. Iruka and the Anbu all looked at the Hokage with puzzled looks, but they turned back at Naruto to see the boy focus once more. When Naruto cast his jutsu, the air around the boy shimmered and 50 clones of Naruto appeared. Iruka looked pole-axed at the sight of so much orange. Sarutobi smirked and muttered, I thought as much. Sir? Iruka inquired. You told me you could see chakra around Naruto when he tried to make his clone technique work. That means he was badly overloading it. Anbu, activate my privacy barrier seals on the hall. This next test would be felt clear outside the village without them if I am not mistaken. The Anbu complied and the walls glowed with a dim blue glow. Naruto, this last test will be the most important of them all. You remember the exercises back in the first year of the academy where you practiced pulling out chakra? The boy nodded. Sarutobi continued, then I want you to generate as much chakra as you can using that method. Naruto looked scared for a moment but stepped back. He made a single hand sign and held it as he focused. The boy began to glow blue as chakra swirled around him, which quickly grew into a blue-white sphere around him. Sarutobi was awestruck at the pure light surrounding the youth. Is that you, Maximum, Naruto? No. Last time I did this, Kara-sensei said I must be doing it wrong because no academy student should be able to do this. No, you are doing it correctly, Naruto. Focus and pull it all out. We need to know how much chakra you have. Pull until it starts to feel different. Naruto closed his eyes, concentrated harder and pulled. The orb around him glowed brighter still and doubled in size. The light was painful to look at and it continued for nearly a minute before dying down as Naruto tired himself out and fell to his knees. Sarutobi stepped up to the boy and smiled. That was very impressive, Naruto. Was that as much as you could make? Well, I kept going until I started to feel sick to my stomach. After that I just held it there. Iruka, why don't you go take Naruto for that ramen you were going to buy him last night? I need to take care of a few things before I can render my verdict. Sarutobi pulled out a number of bills and handed them to Iruka. It's on me this time. The teacher and boy walked out and Sarutobi turned to face the masked Anbu. The two cloaked forms removed the masks and cloaks to reveal a pair of Genin, Tenzo and Sarutobi Asuma. The boy has no practical skills whatsoever at this point, Asuma pointed out. His teacher, Mizuki, was trying to kill him and make it look like an accident. When he couldn't do that, he must have taught Naruto that flawed taijutsu. Another genin could easily kill him in a death match if he tried to fight with that. I agree, Tenzo said. His chakra level is monstrous in amount but he has no control over it. Based on what he showed today, right now he stands in the top dozen in the history of Konoha in terms of pure chakra. It is scary to realize he is only a kid and nowhere near his potential. Sarutobi nodded. I hope you noticed he never tapped into the Kyuubi chakra at all. It was all his, one side effect of being its jailer. We cannot let him just go and be a civilian after this. Not with Danzo lurking out there waiting to try to claim him. The aged leader paused, but maybe that might be exactly what we want to happen. Asuma, remember back when you were a boy, all the trouble I had with weeds in our yard. The younger Sarutobi chuckled. Yeah, it used to drive you crazy, old man. They kept growing back no matter how many times you pulled them out. It took me getting a special herbicide to get rid of them. The weeds kept growing back because I could not get the whole root out. The herbicide ended up getting inside the weed and killing it all the way down to the roots. I am loath to use him like this, but in this case, Naruto will be our herbicide. With a little luck, he will get drawn into it and destroy the entire root for us. Naruto sat happily slurping down ramen noodles with Iruka looking on. The scarred teacher was amazed as always at how much ramen the boy could eat in one sitting. However, after seeing his performance at the Hokage's test earlier, he knew how the boy could manage it. His system burned through the calories and converted it to a massive amount of chakra. Apparently, being the container for the Kyuubi had a few unknown side effects on his body beyond the whiskers. He is going to have gone through the money Hokage-sama gave in another 2 bowls. I had better get him to slow down. Naruto, hold on a moment, Iruka spoke up to the blonde. Do not forget your manners in front of Ayame. I know I taught you better than that. Naruto paused and blushed heavily as he looked up sheepishly at the cook's daughter Ayame. The young woman smiled at Naruto and ruffled his hair. Don't worry too much, Naruto. I know you're not doing it to be rude. At least you never spill or make a mess on the counter. No way, Naruto exclaimed. That would be wasting ramen. Both Iruka and Ayame chuckled at the blonde boy's seriousness about his ramen. Naruto composed himself and ate at a more normal pace for 2 more bowls when Iruka spoke up again. It's time to head back to Hokage-sama's office and find out his decision, Naruto. Naruto paused before nodding and slowly stood up to leave. Iruka loudly cleared his throat. Naruto just looked at Iruka confused until Iruka cleared his throat again and nodded his head towards Ayame. Naruto looked confused for another moment before blushing and stammering out a quiet thank you to Ayame. The woman smiled warmly and bid the pair goodbye as teacher and student headed off to meet with the Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen was suddenly feeling each of his 69 years as he looked at the earnest blonde bundle of energy before him. He knew his decision would break the boy's heart, but it needed to be done. Naruto, after seeing your performance and taking into account the recommendations of the Anbu I had observing, I cannot grant you Genin rank at this time. Naruto just sat as the Hokage stated his decision and the boy hung his head in despair. Iruka spoke up, but Hokage-sama, Naruto does try very hard and has immense potential that would make him a fine ninja one day. Sarutobi nodded. I agree that he has potential. But right now it is only that, potential. I will grant that some of his failing have come from deliberate attempts to sabotage his education. However, his lack of effort on his own part has also contributed to his poor performance. Skipping class to perform pranks does not constitute good effort, Naruto. Naruto tried to make himself seem even smaller in his chair. Taking everything into account, I will grant Naruto one more 6-month period in the remedial class at the academy. This is where those who failed to pass their Jonin sensei's test are sent. Failure there will result in permanent dismissal from the ninja program and being sent to the daimyo's samurai legion as a conscript. Do you understand, Naruto? Sarutobi glared down at Naruto with all the force of his office behind him. Naruto could only pale and nodded slowly. Sarutobi nodded crisply and muttered, "You are dismissed." Iruka fought back a glare at his leader and ushered Naruto out of the office. Once the pair had closed the door behind them, Sarutobi slumped down and frowned. Naruto sat in his apartment that night and did nothing. He could not sleep and he had no appetite, even for ramen. His dreams were going down the drain and he would never be Hokage unless something changed. A light tapping on his window brought him out of his stupor. He pulled a kunai from under his pillow and quietly made his way over to peek out. He did not see anyone. Slowly, he turned to see the Hokage standing in his apartment. Anger boiled up in Naruto as the aged leader just stood in silence. "What are you doing here?" the boy yelled out. It's bad enough you are taking away my dreams, but now you have to come taunt me in my own apartment. No, Naruto. I am not here to taunt you. I am here because I need you to do something for me. Why should I do anything for you? Naruto hissed out with tears in his eyes. Sarutobi held out a folder. First, read this report. Naruto hesitated before taking the folder and reading the short report on a prank of his a few weeks earlier. The boy paled and looked shocked. I didn't do that kind of damage. Sarutobi nodded. I am aware of that. However, someone is trying to make it look like you did. I have a few ideas on whom, but I must keep those secret for now. Are you willing to listen to me now as I explain a few things? Naruto nodded slowly and Sarutobi pointed to the bed. Both sat as the Hokage began his explanation. I know you wish to become Hokage one day, Naruto. Being Hokage is about a lot more than being respected or in charge. Sometimes it is making a tough decision on who will live and who will die. The boy gulped a bit as he had never considered that part of the job before. Being Hokage is also about lies and deception. What I did today was setting up something that will be very important for the future of this village and everyone in it. It involves you directly. There are people within the village who want to use you as a weapon. It involves the reason why so many people are unkind to you and ignore or mistreat you. I need to tell you about this reason before I ask you to do something for me. Do you remember your classes on sealing, Naruto? Sort of. Iruka-sensei used chakra to put stuff into a scroll to make it easier to carry. That is one use for sealing and the very one I was hoping you would recall right now. After Iruka sealed the items into the scroll, did the scroll stop being a scroll? No, it was a scroll with a bunch of kunai in it. Good. Keep that in mind as I get to the next part. What happened the day you were born? The Kyuubi attacked and the fourth killed it. He died doing it. Sarutobi nodded. That is what we tell everyone, Naruto, but it is not entirely correct. The fourth did stop the Kyuubi and he did die doing so, but even he could not kill a Biju. Instead, he sacrificed his life to call upon the power of a death god to seal the Kyuubi inside of a newborn baby. Inside of you, Naruto. I have a demon inside of me. Naruto was on the edge of panicking. Naruto, calm down. Calm down. How can I calm down? Is it gonna eat me? It's going to eat my soul, isn't it? Sarutobi grumbled and slapped the hysterical boy. You hit me. Yes, I needed you to stop ranting. Now, are you a demon or are you a person that is keeping a demon trapped? Keeping it trapped, I guess, Naruto said quietly. That is correct. When you were a baby, I passed a law making it a crime to tell anyone who did not already know about your condition. The only ones who are supposed to know are all adults now, and they should not be telling anyone else, but they are anyway. That is why so many people go out of their way to ignore you or treat you poorly. I have tried to do what I can, but even a Hokage can only do so much. But why not? Why do they treat me badly like they do? Mostly because of fear, Naruto. A single person can be smart and fearless, but get a group of people in one place and they become stupid and cowardly. Like a Yame at the ramen stand. She knows about your secret, but does she treat you badly? No, she is really nice to me. She sees who you are, Naruto, not something to be afraid of, just a sad lonely boy who wants to have some ramen. But the crowd, they only see the demon, not the boy who keeps it captive. They don't see that you protect us all from and are afraid of it. I protect people from it. Yes, Naruto. Your entire life you have served the village by being its protector from the demon you keep trapped within you. But, why did you threaten to send me away from here into the daimyo's samurai legions? I was getting to that, Naruto. I have a problem and I need your help to solve it. I do not want to just use you without you knowing about it, but I needed to make a point in public that people will know and talk about, and I did not have time to ask you first. This is one of the difficult decisions a Hokage has to make that I mentioned earlier, Naruto. There are people who do not have the best interests of Konoha in their hearts. They just want power for themselves. They know you are special to me and that I have watched over you for years. I needed to make it look like I was angry with you and was pushing you away. This way they will creep out from their hidden places and approach you. They will make offers to you and try to use you to get more power for themselves. These same people wrote the lies in the report I showed you earlier. So I should tell you right away if they come to me. No, Naruto. I want you to pretend to go along with what they want you to do. Their leader is the one I am after, not the little minions. Once they think they have you in their clutches, they will take you to him. That is when I will get him and take out the whole root of this problem at once. It sounds important. What if I can't do it? I think you can, Naruto. But I leave the choice to you. You have options. You can reject my mission and go through the remedial class and try to pass in 6 months. Iruka will be checking on your progress weekly to ensure you are being taught correctly. That alone should give you the skills you need to pass with no problem. If you accept my mission now, you would become an official ninja of Konoha, but no one will know about it except me until after your mission is complete. Naruto was about to shout his acceptance when Sarutobi stopped him. Before you accept, I have to tell you. Failing in this mission will likely result in your death, Naruto. I want you to spend a day to think about things over and I will return tomorrow night to hear your answer. Naruto nodded and Sarutobi disappeared in a burst of chakra smoke. Naruto spent the following day walking around Konoha. With his new knowledge about what he contained, he thought about the way most people treated him. There was a large difference in how he was treated between ninja and civilians. Active ninja would just ignore him like they would any other 12-year-old academy student, neither good nor bad. The extreme hatred that Mizuki had shown him was not the norm but the exception. Retired ninja were generally neutral to him unless he had pulled a prank on them. Civilians tended to shoo him off and pull their children away from him. Older merchants were more hostile than most, but he also added in the fact that a large number of them had been pranked after he had been treated poorly. Kids his own age and younger varied from wary to neutral, with a few openly nice to him. His wanderings took him to the academy and he watched from the swing as the students who passed were leaving with Genin. Kiba, Shino and Hinata left with a pretty red-eyed lady. Choji, Shikamaru and Ino left with a bearded Genin who looked somewhat familiar to Naruto, but he didn't know why. Eventually, Iruka left for the day, but he spied Sakura-chan, Sasuke Tem and one other boy still waiting in the room. A couple of hours later, Naruto got bored and wandered off in his thoughts once more as the three still sat waiting in the classroom. His wandering eventually found him in front of Ichiraku Ramen. The blonde boy still did not have much of an appetite. But he sat down and ordered a single bowl of ramen because he knew he needed to eat anyhow. Ayame looked over at him concerned. What is wrong, Naruto? You barely ate anything last night and just one tonight. Are you sick? Naruto gave her a weak smile. No. I just found out a few things about myself yesterday. About why people treat me like they do. Ayame looked sad for a moment before smiling at the boy. Me and Dad have always thought you were a hero, Naruto. Everyone who takes the time to get to know you knows how good a person you are. She winked at him. If you were a few years older, I'd just keep you for myself. Naruto was confused by her flirting and just ate his ramen in silence after that. Naruto was sitting waiting when Sarutobi appeared in his apartment later that night. Well, Naruto, what is your decision? Well, I am scared but I'll do it, old man, Naruto said with a hesitant smile. Sarutobi nodded. Then I can tell you what you need to do. Tomorrow, you will try to see me in my office to try to convince me to change my mind about making you a genin. I will have you thrown out after a loud shouting match with one of my Anbu. He will say some hurtful things to you, Naruto, but this will all be cover for what you must do later on. Hurtful. Sarutobi nodded once more. He will call you several cruel names in front of several secretaries whose allegiance I am not certain of and have you removed from the tower without seeing me. Please know that I do not think that way at all. After that, you must not try to see me in the tower. I will come here once a week for any information you might have learned. Once you have been thrown out, you act bitter towards me and, if you choose to do so, make unfavorable statements about me. This will draw the people I wish to capture to you. I will assume it will be for some kind of special secret training. Go along with them and earn their trust. In time they will take you to see their leader. I believe him to be the man named Danzo. The limping bandaged guy, Naruto asked. You are an observant one, Naruto. Well, he is always looking at me whenever I see him. I figured he was some kind of perv or child molester, so I would stay away from him when he wanted to talk to me. Sarutobi chuckled but continued, if something comes up where you need to see me at once, you are to go to Ichiraku Ramen. Once there you will order the special Hokage only ramen and get it to go. She will say it is for the Hokage only, but you tell her you are going to be the Hokage one day and you are entitled to it. So, how do I get started on this mission, old man? Naruto asked excitedly. Oh, that part is simple. You go to the remedial classes as scheduled and wait for them to get in touch with you. Naruto was at the tower early in the morning. He figured that in order to get the most out of what he needed to do, he should do it in front of the most people possible. He sat calmly on a bench outside the Hokage's tower. He watched people going into the building for their normal civilian day of work. At last, he saw Sarutobi walk in past him without even glancing at him. Hey, old man, Naruto called out in his loud but friendly way. I need to talk to you. Unlike all the previous times Naruto had called out to him, Sarutobi continued on without turning and entered the building. His Anbu bodyguards had barely glanced at Naruto. Steeling himself, Naruto ran into the building after the group. Hey, wait a second. He cried out as he trailed the Hokage up through the building. Please, Gigi, I really need to talk to you about this. He made himself sound desperate as they passed many lower-level offices. Heads peeked around desks as the boys' shouts drew more and more attention. Naruto finally got to the office door and tried to enter like he normally did when he came to the tower. His hand was stopped by one of the Anbu guards taking hold of his wrist. Hokage-sama will not see you, child. He has no more time for the antics of a failure, the bear-masked guard said in an even tone. I am not a failure. Naruto yelled out. I am going to be Hokage one day. You'll see. He pulled his hand free and reached for the door handle once more. Naruto suddenly found him face slammed into the wall with his arm wrenched behind his back in a hammerlock. Ow! He whimpered. The Anbu took hold of his jacket collar and, holding tightly to the arm he held, Frog marched Naruto back down and out of the building. Naruto protested loudly the whole time. Once outside, the Anbu hurled Naruto to the ground and spoke in the calm even tone Anbu are normally heard in. Uzumaki-san, you are barred from returning to this tower without being summoned from the Hokage or one of the officials within who require your presence. If you return without being summoned, the Hokage will allow the charges he is holding back for the defacing of the monument to proceed and you will be arrested and placed in prison for treason. Do you understand what I have said to you? Naruto sat in the dirt and slowly nodded. I require a verbal answer from you, Uzumaki-san. Do you understand what I have said to you? Naruto replied in a soft voice, yes, I understand. The Anbu nodded before turning and going back into the building. Naruto sat in the dirt for a few minutes before rising. Tears fell down his face as he slowly walked away from the tower. Sarutobi looked out his window at the blonde boy walking off. Even knowing this was a setup, he felt bad for having to subject the boy he loved like his own grandson to such treatment. There was a knock on his door and Bear entered the office. Sarutobi looked over to see Asuma remove the bear mask and look at him for a moment. Asuma had been about to express his dislike of having to do that to Naruto, but the look of pain in his father's eyes told him that silence was the best option. It's done. As ordered, was all he said. Sarutobi nodded. Now we wait. The hardest part about fishing is seeing what nibbles on the bait you toss out and how long it will take. And hoping they do not notice the little hook waiting for them when they do. Rumors spread like wildfire across Konoha. The third had Naruto tossed out of the tower. Many people thought that finally the demon container was losing favor with their aged leader. One foolhardy soul decided that he could act on his dislike of the boy. Naruto had been walking with his head down and hands in his pockets when the bottle came flying out of the alley. It suddenly swerved in mid-air and flew up to a rooftop to be caught by an Anbu. Naruto never even noticed it. The man turned to flee, but he ran into a single Anbu waiting behind him. The boy may have fallen out of favor, idiot, but the third's law still remains. The Anbu vanished with the civilian in a swirl of leaves. Several days after the incident at the tower, Naruto arrived for the remedial classes. He was surprised that 13 of the 20 other students there who had actually passed the Genin test. But why are they here if they passed? He wondered. The largest surprise he found was Sakura was in the group. She got assigned to a team with Sasuke and some kid that was from an outskirt village. I don't see the Tem or that other kid, so why is she here? He noticed that Sakura had her head hung in defeat, much like he had when he failed the tests. Even her normally vibrant pink hair had a dirty look to it, showing it had not been washed in days. He walked up to her. In a quiet voice he asked, "Sakura-chan, what are you doing here?" Sakura looked up at him. Her bright green eyes lacked any life at all. "Oh, hi Naruto. Guess I'm where I belong, with the losers. What happened? You passed the test. So did a bunch of other people in here. I don't understand." Sakura sighed. "It seems there is a second test by the Jonin teachers. If they fail you, you get washed back. My team failed. But if you failed, then where is the Tem?" he said, puzzled by her answer. Kakashi-san said his skills were good enough that he could be used as a replacement in an existing team. Mine weren't, she said with no energy. Naruto was shocked by her answer. Add in the fact that he had insulted Sasuke and Sakura had not even reacted, and he was really worried. He sat next to her and she still did not react to him. Sakura, I'm sitting next to you, you know. I'm not even defending myself, so if you felt like it, you could hit me on the head for it." Sakura just lowered her head once more. "No thanks Naruto." Naruto tried to think of something else to cheer up Sakura. "You know, it could be worse. They could have kicked you out altogether. If they sent you here, they might think you are still good enough but just lacking something. Like with me, I can't make a simple clone. If you fix that one area, you could be a ninja after all." Sakura looked up again. "You really think so? But what if I fail again and then they get rid of me? Then go out trying your best. I read something once but I can't remember what it said, so I'll tell you what I remember of it. I will fight until I have nothing left. If my weapon breaks, I'll fight with my hands. If my hands are cut off, I'll kick them with my feet. If my feet get cut off, I'll crawl along the ground and bite them. If they kill me, I will still win by getting my blood on them and ruining their clothes." Sakura chuckled at the corny last line Naruto said as his grin seemed to lighten the mood she was in. "That was horrible and I never heard of anything like that, Naruto. But I think that was something like a samurai's motto. Maybe, but it did make you smile, Sakura-chan. You look much nicer when you smile," he said with honesty. Sakura smiled weakly at Naruto after that. "Thanks Naruto." They sat in silence until an instructor neither knew came in. The man wore the standard uniform of a chunin of Konoha. He looked over the students in the room with a blank look before speaking in a loud clear voice. "All of you are here for one reason or another. The underlying reason is that all of you here have washed out of the academy training program. None of you are any longer on the fast track for advancement and few if any of you are likely to be making Jonin rank. You are plain grunts from now on. I am the only person you need to impress while I see if I can salvage any of you into passable ninja. I will not tolerate backtalk or slackers in my class. After today, all of you will come to class in suitable attire and respond to military discipline. You will address me as sir. That is the only way you will refer to me. Do you understand me, class?" A few students replied with a weak, "Yes, sir." I could not hear you. Do you understand me, class? The class replied louder, "Yes, sir." In the future, all replies will be loud and clearly spoken. You will wear dark blue, dark green, or black clothing to class. Brightly colored hair will be covered when on duty or dyed to a dark color. It will not be loose below your neck. He glared at Sakura and Naruto specifically on those points. When I call on you in class, you will rise and stand straight before replying to me. Are there any questions for me? Naruto raised his hand slightly above his head. The instructor pointed at him, "You, with the whiskers." Naruto stood up, rubbed the back of his head with one hand. "Sir, I have no other clothes that could be used for ninja work. I don't have enough money to buy better clothes." The instructor raised an eyebrow. "Whiskers, did I say you could smile or rub the back of your head when you addressed me?" "No, sir." The instructor got up close to Naruto and glared at the boy from a few inches away. "Then get down on the floor and do 20 push-ups for your mistake." Naruto dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups. He quickly did the 20 required and stood once more. "We have a comedian, class. How many push-ups did you do for me, Whiskers?" "I did 20, sir," Naruto replied in a clear voice. "Really? I never heard you say you did any. And how do I know you actually did 20? Maybe you only did 19 and are lying to me. Are you lying to me, Whiskers?" "No, sir." "Then I want to hear you as you do those push-ups, Whiskers." The instructor bellowed. Naruto got back down to the floor and began doing push-ups once more, making sure he counted off each one as his body rose and fell. He finished the final one and began to rise when a foot pushed his chest back to the ground. "Are you trying to get thrown out of this program, Whiskers?" "No, sir. I think you are. You seem to think you are special or something. You did every one of those push-ups wrong." He looked at Sakura. "Pinky, what did Whiskers do wrong?" Sakura quickly stood. He forgot to say sir each time he spoke out, "Sir." The man nodded and looked back down. "Do my 20 push-ups, Whiskers." Naruto felt the foot leave his back and he performed another 20 push-ups, counting each one and making sure he said sir at each. Once finished, Naruto stood back up. The instructor looked at him. "To answer your question, you may go request suitable clothing from the quartermaster. The cost of it will be deducted if you make Genin, otherwise you will be billed for it if you wash out entirely." He handed Naruto a paper. "Give them this. Take Pinky with you because both of you are wearing clothes that say, 'Kill me.'" The instructor then talked about the class schedule and that each day they would be doing exercise as a group to make sure that they all could handle the physical side of being ninja. After that, he dismissed the class until the following day and walked out. The instructor walked to a plain building and entered. He descended down a hidden stairwell to come to an open area. He went to one knee before an old bandaged man supporting himself with a cane. "Danzo-sama, the newest class does contain the container as we had been informed. The group also contains 3 or 4 other potential recruits. With the proper mindset they could do well for Root." Danzo smiled crookedly. "Keep an eye on the ones you think might be useful eventually. Make sure they all receive strict discipline. Do not approach the container just yet. Have him watched when he is not in training. I want to see if he truly has fallen out of favor with the Hokage before we approach him. He needs the most discipline of them all. Let the system do our initial training for us." Naruto and Sakura eventually found the quartermaster warehouse far from the civilian areas they normally kept to. Upon showing the note from their instructor, each of them received 4 sets of clothing in a dark blue. Neither one was interested in dyeing their hair, so they got several head scarves to tuck under their headbands to cover their hair. Sakura would be forced to wear hers in the standard fashion to hide her bangs and tie her hair up in a bun to keep its length. Once the paperwork for the clothing was filled out, they were allowed to leave. The quartermaster had also issued them each a pack to carry the clothing in. They slowly made their way back toward the civilian areas. "Sakura-chan, do you want to get some ramen with me? I'll pay. I have a little bit of money left." Sakura was quiet for a minute. Naruto had always asked her out in the past and she would normally hit him for it so she would not look like she was giving up on Sasuke. But now, she was in a totally different situation. She had no Sasuke to fall back on. She had no other person she knew remotely as much as Naruto in the class. Every person she knew more than casually had passed the real test and now she had no one, just Naruto. She didn't want to push away the closest thing she had left to calling a friend. Fine, she said at last in the defeated voice she had been using outside of class. It is not a date. Just a pair of friends getting something to eat. Naruto smiled broadly and it seemed to be warm and lightened her mood just a little bit. Day by day, the next 3 months passed slowly for both Naruto and Sakura. The instructor seemed to take particular glee in torturing the pair of them. Neither one noticed they were being molded into obedient little soldiers as every instance of individuality was dealt with by harsh physical punishment in the form of more exercise. Classes consisted of tactics and team formations and all the physical things a ninja needed to know. Taijutsu was done daily and left all the students sore. Knife work, weapon throwing, silent killing techniques, offensive and defensive formations. There were none of the leadership classes that the academy had drilled into them. They realized that they were no longer the leaders. They would end up being the followers, a part of the nameless background all dressed and looking the same. Sakura's physical strength improved dramatically. She decided early on to take heed of Naruto's advice. They could kick her out but she would not give them the satisfaction of making her quit. Her slender arms gained muscle mass along with the rest of her body. In response to her increasing physical energy, her chakra reserves were several times what they had been in the original academy. Her build became more like a gymnast's than anything else as the flexibility exercises the class had kept her from growing muscle-bound and looking like a weightlifter. In the second month after a grueling day of running an obstacle course, Sakura's bun had come undone and her long hair cascaded down her back. The instructor was immediately yelling at her to do something about it. Wincing under his verbal assault, she pulled out a kunai and sliced the hair off at her neck. She just dropped the pink strands into the mud and kept moving. She never looked back at it. Naruto also filled out from a scrawny boy into a much more fit person. His troubles with chakra control only increased the amount of punishment he got at the hands of the instructor. But he kept one thought in mind. He was working for the Hokage and this was a mission. The only bright spot for Naruto or Sakura was each other. As they were the troublemakers of the group, the other students left them isolated. During training they would watch each other's backs and make sure the other was getting through that stage of the training. They would sit together during lunches and walked back to their homes at night together. Every few days Naruto would treat Sakura to ramen but he ate much less than he had in the past as his funds had been drastically cut. Neither one spoke much outside of training and they only caught glimpses of their old friends as they passed by doing other things. They did see that their former friends never bothered to notice the pair of trainees in identical outfits and head coverings. True to his word, the Hokage came by his apartment once a week late at night. Early on, Naruto would give long detailed talks about his experiences but every week these became smaller. After nearly 3 months he just said in an exhausted voice, "Nothing to report, Hokage-sama." Sarutobi frowned at hearing that as the entirety of what Naruto had to say. But he could see the changes in the boy over time. He hoped that the bubbly boy he knew was not lost forever. The Hokage then left Naruto's apartment in a puff of smoke. Back in his mansion, Sarutobi shivered as the shadow clone dissipated and the memories flowed into his mind. He needed to push things along faster. Root must be holding back to have not approached Naruto yet. He needed to make things move faster. He was worried about many things and the disturbing report of a Genin team headed for the Wave Country being killed along with their Jonin teacher and client seemed more ominous than usual. The instructor looked over his reduced class. From the original 21 students, 13 remained. The rest had left the program on their own. The first 3 months of this program are now over. I hope I have instilled the proper amount of physical and mental discipline into all of you that will be needed in your time as ninja of Konoha. I will turn you over to a new instructor tomorrow to handle your chakra and jutsu training. There was a call from the door. Stand for the Hokage. All the students stood quickly to attention. The Hokage walked in briskly with his white robes and official hat. He looked out at the teenagers and frowned before turning to the instructor. These are the washouts of the last academy session. Yes, Hokage-sama. They just finished their physical retraining and move on to the chakra and jutsu retraining tomorrow. The Hokage nodded. Any problems from any of them? Only Uzumaki and Haruno, Hokage-sama. They seem to not like to follow the rules, but we are certain they will fall into line. Their years in the academy left them thinking they were special. Sarutobi walked over to the still at attention Naruto. Still causing problems, Naruto. You must really want to spend the next 20 years of your life in the daimyo's legions, don't you? No, Hokage-sama, Naruto replied. Sarutobi looked at the instructor. Make a note in Uzumaki's file. If he fails out or quits, he goes to the legions as a conscript. Haruno as well. The ranks do not need troublemakers. Yes, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi turned and left without another word. Both Naruto and Sakura looked scared as the instructor turned a malicious grin in their direction. Danzo-sama, we have an update on the container. Sarutobi has threatened to send him to the legions as a conscript. Excellent. Desperate men turn to whoever gives them comfort. Watch his home for another 2 months. If no one sees him by then, send in a low-level operative to approach him with an offer. Danzo turned his attention to other things as he could see his new weapon getting deeper into his grasp. Sarutobi normally liked going out and seeing the training of the various ninja under his command. This morning he felt too sick to do so. His need to force Danzo's hand was becoming too great. He had been forced to threaten not only Naruto but a person who had no connection to his plans. He remembered the perky pink-haired girl from Naruto's class and knew she should not be in that program. Kakashi had failed the team over poor ability and the lack of any sort of teamwork. He even suggested that the Uchiha be turned over for psychological tests due to his monomaniacal need to kill his brother. It had been the manipulations of Sarutobi's old teammates that had the Uchiha boy assigned out as a replacement for an incomplete team. Like it or not, his power as Hokage was waning as his age increased. Danzo would not outlive him by very long as the old Warhawk was badly crippled. The root organization Danzo created would outlive both of them and be a drain on Konoha unless it was destroyed. Naruto was the big variable for Sarutobi. The boy needed so much more than he had gotten in his life. If someone were to offer him better than he had received in the past, the Hokage felt there was a slim chance that the boy would turn. He needed someone else as a backup to Naruto just in case the boy did turn to what he was offered. Naruto liked the instructor for chakra training a lot better than the one for physical training. Sakura was helping him with class work as much as he had helped her with physical exercise. The pair had become a team in practice but not in fact. In spite of getting the most punishment and excluded by the others, they were also the top 2 in the class. The discipline he had been subject to for the past 3 months taught him to concentrate and focus on what he needed to do. That helped him refine his chakra control now that real training on it began. The class had been asked to do the most basic chakra measurement exercise for the teacher. Sakura was surprised to see that her reserves had increased several times over what they had been in the academy. Her control remained as perfect as before and might even have improved somewhat through the discipline. When finished, she kept her face composed and bowed. "Cha, I pulled it off," she shouted inside. When it was Naruto's turn, he looked straight at the instructor and said, "Sir, do you want my best or what you need to see?" The instructor just sneered and said, "Your best is what I want to see." "Yes, sir," was all Naruto said before he exploded in light. The entire group felt like they had looked into the sun. Naruto glowed like that for 10 seconds before the instructor was shouting at him to stop. It took several minutes for the instructor and the class to regain their sight. Naruto managed to hide his smirk before the instructor could see it. Never do that again, Uzumaki. I will admit you have more chakra than anyone your age should have, but that is not a reason to flaunt it. You need to control all that power. Yes, sir, Naruto replied. The instructor led the class outside. All right, class. Now we will start your chakra control exercises. All of you have shown enough chakra to do this, so I want no slackers. Today I will show all of you how to climb walls and trees without your hands. You will use chakra through the soles of your feet to grip the tree. This technique is the basis for the tree and roof running you see so many ninja of Konoha use. The instructor walked up to the wall of the training area and with a slight push-off walked up the wall. He stopped about 20 feet up and looked down at the class. The most difficult part of this exercise is getting used to the way your perception shifts when in a plane that is not vertical. It is easy to become disoriented because gravity still works on you even though your feet are gripping the surface. That is why this is used mainly as a practice exercise and not a routine procedure. First step, lift one foot and place it flat on the wall. Mold chakra through that foot to get it to grip at the wall. Once you can lean back at a steep angle and have your foot remain gripping the wall, you get my attention and then you can switch to work on the other foot. Sometimes it takes a different amount on each foot to get this to work. You may approach the wall and begin. The class stepped up to begin. Sakura and the other girl in the class both managed to get one foot to work almost immediately. They raised their arms and were able to switch feet. Naruto was constantly applying chakra and having his foot pushing off from the wall. The jutsu instructor came up to each person in turn and told them what they were doing wrong. Each time he was telling the person to apply more chakra. He observed Naruto and growled out, "Way too much chakra, Uzumaki." Naruto applied less and less as his instructor told him until finally he managed to get the foot to remain attached to the wall. He was the last one to be switching feet, but he managed to get the second foot on the first try. The instructor was pleased that the entire class had managed the first step in only an hour. The next part would be a step up in difficulty. He led the class to a slanted section of wall at a steep angle with bars hanging over it. Second step. I want each of you to grab the bar on the wall in front of you. You will lift yourself off the ground and place your feet against the wall. You will use your chakra to hold your feet in place and slowly relax your arms until your weight is on your feet. You will need to increase the chakra you use to do this as more weight is on your feet. Once you can maintain the grip with your feet, you will release the bar and keep yourself firmly attached to the surface. Once everyone has accomplished this, we will move on. Once more the class began the new exercise. Sakura and the other girl were once again the first two to get it right, but Naruto was a close third behind them. The instructor walked up to Naruto and looked at him and finally pulled at him to see how well he was stuck to the slanted surface. How is it you could not get one foot to stick for so long but now can learn this part so fast, Uzumaki? I learn best by doing, sir. Once I knew how much to chakra use, it was easy after that. Adding a little more was easy for me too, Naruto informed him. The instructor chuckled as he turned to get the rest of the class up to speed. Several fell, but the controlled conditions prevented injuries. Once everyone had managed the exercise, the instructor moved on to the third one. Third step. This is the toughest part. Now each of you will actually climb a wall. You will be allowed to step on the slanted part on the way up. From a standing start, you will place one foot on the slanted surface, and lift yourself up, then place the other foot higher on the wall and then proceed to walk up the wall. You will not run during this exercise. It is intended to train your control, not your speed. Moving at a slower speed means you need greater control to get up the distance required. If you find your leg strength lacking, use chakra to support the muscles. I expect us to be working on this for at least the next 2 days, so those who finish early can keep doing it by going up backwards. Those who cannot do this exercise forwards and backwards after 2 days had better practice on their own time or you will fail the final. Do you understand? We understand, sir, shouted out the class. The instructor leaned against the wall to watch the class practice and fall often, but there were no serious injuries. Over the next 2 days, the class all managed to finish the exercise. Sakura had nearly exhausted her chakra even at the higher level of control. Naruto carried her piggyback toward her house as she lightly dozed. He caught sight of Team 10 going the other way but chose to say nothing as the group walked past. Shikamaru had only been grazed by Sakura's foot. He looked up for a moment but then stopped and looked over his shoulder. Naruto. Sakura. Naruto flinched and stopped, almost coming to attention at hearing his name. Sakura shifted on his back and groggily lifted her head off his shoulder, muttering, "Here, sir." Choji, Ino and Asuma all stopped once Shikamaru hadn't turned back to see what was wrong. The remainder of Team 10 saw Shikamaru talking to a pair of ordinary military ninja, with one being carried on the second's back. Asuma shifted to one side, recognized Naruto's face and frowned. The look on Naruto's face was extremely tired and his features holding a blank mask. The girl on his back was even more tired and looked like she had just woken up. But the thing that most disturbed him was their eyes. They were not so much empty as they seemed guarded and hiding their emotions. He would need to talk to his father about this. Shikamaru looked over the pair with a critical eye as he took in their appearance and physical state. He needed more time to think about this. "We haven't seen either of you since graduation. We were just going to get some barbecue. You want to come?" Asuma frowned at first, but Shikamaru glanced back at him with a look and he spoke up, "That's an excellent idea, Shikamaru." He waved Team 10 into motion and Naruto followed along, still carrying Sakura. Asuma got them all into the restaurant and had Naruto and Sakura in furthest against the wall. Ino slid in next to Sakura and Choji outside of Ino. Shikamaru got in next to Naruto with Asuma taking the outside seat. Sakura and Naruto both sat there as Team 10 ordered food for the entire group. Ino began to talk and ask them questions. Asuma noticed neither one made a move to remove their hoods, so he spoke up, "You can take off the hoods now." Naruto spoke up, "We are still on duty until we arrive at home, sir. We are supposed to be in uniform on duty." Asuma nodded, "Well, I am a Genin and I say you are off duty while you are in here eating, so take them off." Both Naruto and Sakura pulled the hoods off their heads and Ino almost freaked when she saw the state of Sakura's hair. "Damn, forehead, what did you do to your hair? It's almost as short as Hinata's now. It was in the way and I didn't have time to roll it back up into a bun, so I had to cut it or do 50 push-ups for being out of uniform," Sakura replied in a tired voice. "It was below my neck." Ino looked over at Asuma in shock as he nodded. "But my ponytail goes almost all the way down my back. And I don't have to wear that hideous uniform. Why do they have to?" she asked her teacher. Asuma sighed and slid into lecture mode. They both washed back from the elite program into the standard military ninja program. The elite program that you are in, Ino, is what most of the world sees of our ninja. The elite program gets the high-profile missions that make a village famous and get the village a lot of money from clients who wish for the ninja they hire to be seen. The elites also tend to be the more powerful ninja of a hidden village and get unique reputations. Genin in the elite program don't have to wear standard uniforms, so they can be seen in public much easier. Most Chunin and Jonin in the elite program tend to move to a more military style of dress so they do not stand out as much to the enemy. Standard military ninja are a different group. They wear uniforms all the time. They get the quiet missions and the dirty missions. They take guard duty in Konoha. They keep the village secure and handle all the things that we take for granted with our elite status. They also rarely get high-profile missions and few advance to Jonin rank. However, a large portion of Anbu is drawn from the best of them. When someone fails out of the academy due to lack of skill or failed by a Jonin sensei, they get sent to the military ninja basic training to see if they can still be useful as a ninja. But, Sakura was smarter than I was, Asuma sensei, Ino protested. She should still be one of us. No, Ino, Sakura said quietly. Yes, I was smart, but I was also being very stupid. I spent all the time I could have been getting physically stronger chasing after Sasuke. Now I know better, but I am not going to quit. I can't quit now. I have to get through this to the end. Why not? Ino blubbered out. You can always quit the program if you are not a genin yet. Naruto looked across the table at Ino. If either of us tries to quit or fail out now, Hokage-sama is going to send us to be conscripts in the daimyo's legions. What are the daimyo's legions? Choji asked. Asuma spoke up. They are the military forces that answer directly to the daimyo as opposed to the Hokage. Normal professional soldiers who have no chakra are people who wanted to fight but not be ninja. Local militias, police forces and conscripts are also a part of the legions. Conscripts are basically slave labor in the legions. Few conscripts survive their terms of conscription. If Naruto and Sakura are sent there, it would be a horrible and short life. Ino paled. What would happen? Asuma looked down. Naruto would be the lucky one. He would likely survive. He would be little better than a pack mule and he wouldn't get to fight, only do drudge labor. Sakura. Asuma paused and looked up at Sakura. He saw a slight spark in her eyes and she nodded slightly. She knew what could happen to her there. Asuma continued. Sakura would be used by the troops, as a pleasure woman and a cook. Likely she would not live very long. Choji and Ino both had tears rolling down their faces at hearing that. That's cruel and inhuman. Ino cried out. Asuma nodded once more. Sending someone to the legions is a last resort for Konoha. It is reserved for the worst and most incompetent of trainees. Hokage-sama normally just dismisses people from the military instead of doing that. The team sat in silence for a few moments before Shikamaru spoke up. I doubt that would happen to them, Ino. Unless the standards are ridiculously high, they should already be more than strong enough to pass now. Judging by how their uniforms fit and in spite of their being tired, I think the pair of them could defeat all three of us right now in a straight battle. Choji looked at Naruto and Sakura then back at Shikamaru. Are you sure, Shika? They look pretty wiped out. Shikamaru nodded. You both were so busy listening to Asuma-sensei that you haven't watched them. They have been quietly eating almost constantly since the food was brought up. I would guess that Sakura's chakra reserves are back up to a quarter of their normal level from being nearly empty less than an hour ago. Physically, they are each stronger than me and Ino and they would not fool around with flashy jutsu. They would move into disable immediately with kunai and taijutsu. They are not mere ninja anymore, Choji. They are soldiers as well. I think Naruto as he is now would easily defeat Sasuke. Ino chuckled, as if Sasuke-kun would roast him in a few seconds. Shikamaru shook his head. No, Naruto would beat him in a few seconds. Not with anything flashy, just go right about it and cut him down without a word while Sasuke was trying to brag about his superiority. Naruto smiled slightly. I might let him think he had a chance, Shikamaru. But I think that is about right. Asuma spoke up once more. Ino, I mentioned that most of Anbu comes from the military ninja. What I did not tell you is more specific. Nearly all Anbu come from academy students that were washed back to the military side from the elite side. Think about it. They had the skills and ability to make it through the entire academy program but lacked the one something a Jonin sensei felt was off to be a part of the elite. The military training and discipline added to that existing skill level and made them better than just academy or just military. I would not be surprised if in 5 years or so, both Naruto and Sakura would be invited to join Anbu. Choji was in so much shock hearing what Asuma had to say he never even noticed Naruto quietly getting the last piece of meat. Since the class had demonstrated ability at wall climbing, the chakra instructor wasted no time moving on to walking on water as the next skill. This took nearly a week for the entire class to master. Sakura managed to accomplish it the first day along with a few others, so they were tasked with variants of it like doing handstands or calisthenics on the surface of the water. The chakra instructor wasted little time with fancy high-powered jutsu. Each day he would have his students hold themselves to the rafters of the room while he taught his lessons. He taught simple D-class jutsu in the class, using a simple water jutsu to fill a canteen by condensing the water from the air. Fire jutsu that could be held in one hand and used to cook meals without the need of a campfire. Earth jutsu that could allow hiding of trash and waste at a campsite. Wind jutsu to dry clothes if they got wet. The range of simple uses of jutsu the class learned made more sense for a covert force than the flash the elite ninja used. By the time that chakra and jutsu training was completed, the class would become true ninja, silent, unseen and skilled. Danzo-sama, the latest report from the instructor has been forwarded to us. There are several promising candidates we can have assigned to root members. Subject Uzumaki is showing great progress as far as self-control now. The agents watching him have not detected any contact with him in private outside of a dinner with some of their old academy classmates last month after Uzumaki and Haruno bumped into them. The agents are worried because the Genin sensei of that team is Sarutobi Asuma. Have there been any attempts to contact Uzumaki in his residence? Our agents have reported none in all the time he has been in the program. They have to be careful to avoid the normal Anbu watch on the boy, but they are able to maintain surveillance. The dinner was the only contact with his former friends in months. Only subject Haruno has close ties to him now. She is on the consideration list. Danzo nodded. Send a message to keep Uzumaki alone after training tomorrow. Someone will have a talk with him then. Uzumaki, one of the instructors wishes to discuss your failings as a ninja with you after today's training session, the chakra instructor told Naruto. Haruno, there will be no need to remain waiting for Uzumaki today unless you have a pressing need for more push-ups. Naruto and Sakura both replied, yes, sir. Naruto watched Sakura trudge off as he sat to wait. Maybe this is the contact that the old man has been hoping for, he thought. Naruto heard a person open the door saying, Uzumaki, come with me. Naruto rose and followed the man he recognized as the first instructor who called him, Whiskers, all the time. He had never learned the man's name. The instructor led Naruto to an office and had Naruto sit in a chair facing away from the door. Wait here, Uzumaki. Don't turn around. A door across the hall was knocked on and it opened. Footsteps crossed the hallway and the office door closed. Naruto could hear two people behind him. Uzumaki, we have a problem to deal with. It seems you are up to the task for us. Right now you are on the cusp of failing out of our little program along with your little friend. Your discipline problems have all been documented and will count against you when the final scores are added up. If you decide to help us with this little problem, those records will disappear. What if I choose not to help, sir? Naruto asked. Then we will have no choice but to apply those records in full force, making both you and your little friend, Sakura, fail. You know what failure would bring for each of you. Yes, we know you still call her, Sakura-chan, when you are alone. Imagine poor little Sakura-chan being sent out as a conscript. Her first night being auctioned off to the highest bidder as a prostitute. That man taking her in various disgusting ways before tossing her to the rest of the men. Naruto's fist clenched involuntarily as the man so casually talked for a few more minutes about the treatment that would await Sakura. Finally, he asked, what would I need to do? Naruto slowly walked back toward his apartment. He did not know what he should do. If he rejected the mission, Sakura-chan would be sent out as a conscript. Visions of Sakura-chan being cruelly treated and raped danced in front of his eyes. The thought of it just made his chest hurt. She was a much nicer person to him now. She never yelled or hit him anymore. They even talked about small things together. She even smiled at him when no one else was around. He could not condemn Sakura-chan to that life, so he would sacrifice his own to keep her safe. He would do what the people wanted of him to ensure that she would be alright. He walked up to Ichiraku and ordered a Hokage-sized ramen. He knew that the old man had put that over her and only the old man could take it off now. He hoped that the message would get through in time and then he could go do what the mysterious people wanted of him. I assume since you used the emergency contact, that something has come up. Sarutobi asked. Yes, sir, Naruto replied. Sorry, too used to having to respond like that. I had some guys today ask me to do something that I know is illegal. But if I don't do it, they are going to make sure your threat against Sakura-chan happens for sure. Sarutobi stroked his chin. Just as he suspected would happen, Root was trying to use Naruto's relationship with Sakura against the boy. Once Naruto had committed the crime, they would have a hold on him that they could keep using to draw him in deeper. What is it they want you to do, Naruto? The Hokage asked. They want me to break into a warehouse and steal something illegal hidden inside it. Sarutobi stroked his beard as he thought about what Naruto was told to do. Such an act would make him a criminal and easily give Danzo's men a hold on him. Even with his plans, that might be too much of an obstacle for Naruto to get past. At last he nodded. Do as they ask. Since I am aware of it, I can make sure nothing comes out against you in the end as you are under my orders. Like I told you months ago, we do not blame the subordinate for following the orders of the superior. Naruto smiled, but Sarutobi noticed that where the boy would have whooped for joy 6 months before, now he kept much more sedate and controlled. Sir, old man, could I make one request? What is it, Naruto? Could you cancel your order to have Sakura-chan sent to the legions if something goes wrong for me? I mean, I understand a lot more about what being a ninja really means these last few months and she would make a good one. If something bad happens to me with all of this, I'd feel better knowing that Sakura-chan won't have to face that life. Sarutobi felt a surge of pride hearing that from Naruto. The boy knew what a mission could lead to death or worse, but he still looked out for someone precious to him. Consider the order rescinded, Naruto. I had no intention of sending either of you into that hellhole of a life, but I had needed to make it convincing enough to make Danzo's men approach you. They have taken much longer than I had hoped, but that is why I have had so much trouble catching them in the act. They are careful and will not hesitate to use your conscience against you until they have you trapped. Naruto smiled once more. Sakura-chan would be safe no matter what. One last question for you, Naruto. I have heard from Iruka that he has not seen you at all for months now. Are you avoiding him? Naruto ducked his head and blushed lightly in embarrassment. Actually the one day off I get, I normally end up sleeping most of the day. If he came by, I don't think I would have even heard him knocking. Sarutobi chuckled lightly. You should make time to see your friends, Naruto. They are what keep a person going in the hard times. I should be leaving before the spies watching you see me. Naruto nodded. I need to leave soon myself. I don't expect trouble, but I was told Anbu patrols the Uchiha estate more than most places in the village. Sarutobi vanished in a puff of smoke and Naruto turned to get his gear ready. Sarutobi sat back as the memories of the shadow clone filtered into his mind. He smiled once more as he thought about Naruto's request. The boy was as strong as he had hoped. Even so, the insurance he had taken would also be of use in time. Haruno Sakura was quiet as she walked home with Naruto. The Hokage had said she would go into the legions if she failed or quit. All Kunoichi knew the horror stories that came from such a sentence. She had been doing well in this remedial class. The instructors loved to pick on both her and Naruto. But she had shown she was more than able to meet their challenges. She was proud of herself for the first time she could recall. Now, this thing the Hokage laid on her was like a blow to her confidence. She said good night to Naruto and walked into her parents' house. It was dark, of course. Her mother had been moved to a shift in the evenings now that Sakura was not in the elite program. It seems her mom's boss felt that keeping in the elder Haruno's good graces was not something he needed to do any longer. She felt guilty each night the house was dark on her arrival. One more reason she had to get through this. Since her father had died years ago on a mission, She was the only Haruno left as a ninja. Her dad's commander had kept his promise and gotten Sakura the appointment to the academy once she qualified to get in. There were more Harunos, but her uncle and cousin were not interested in being ninja. They were content with being bureaucrats. Sakura heard a noise in the living room and peered in as she was taught. "Come in, Sakura. It is your parents' house after all," a familiar voice called out. She stood straight and entered the room to see the Hokage sitting on her couch holding his unlit pipe. A pair of Anbu stood on either side of it, a bear and a cat. "I know I am not your favorite person at the moment, Sakura, but I have a reason for what I said this afternoon. Will you listen to what I have to say?" the Hokage said in a calm voice. Sakura bit her lip and nodded. "All right. Good," he said, smiling slightly. The Hokage gestured to the couch next to him and she sat as gracefully as she could. "First of all, Sakura, I must tell you I have no intention of sending you to the legions. I needed to say that because some people are after Naruto." "Why would people be after Naruto? He's just another loser like me," Sakura replied in a soft voice. "Sakura, you know that is not true," Sarutobi said in a stern voice. "Kat here has been keeping an eye on things with your class for me. She is keeping me up to date on the progress of everyone along with keeping an eye on Naruto. According to her, both you and Naruto are the top in your class and make a good team. You have a huge edge in chakra control over him while he has the physical skills. Right now, both of you can easily make Genin. As far as Naruto goes, he is a special case. There are reasons I cannot tell you his secrets right now, but if he feels the need to tell you of them one day, he can tell you. Otherwise, you must wait to be told on making Jonin rank or Anbu. But going along with that, people are after him because of those secrets. Are you with me so far?" Sakura nodded. "Good. I would like you to keep an eye on Naruto for me. But isn't that what your Anbu is for? There are times in your class when Kat cannot know what is happening unless she reveals herself. If Naruto is approached by anyone suspicious, I need to know about it. That is why I am asking you to do this for me. As I said, you are good enough to be a Genin on your own merits right now. Whatever the instructors do to try to fail you will be countered. Several of them are working for the people after Naruto and will be removed when the time comes. All I ask from you is that you keep me informed of anything strange that happens with Naruto." Sakura bit her lip and looked down. She felt relief that the sentence was not hanging over her anymore. All she needed to do was keep an eye on Naruto. He had become her best friend over the past months. She didn't like him romantically or say you ally, dreams at night don't count, she clarified to herself, and he was not as bad as he had seemed when compared to Sasuke back in the academy. He actually had some good skills. She could keep an eye on her friend since she had been doing that already. "Would we be able to get back into the elite program?" she asked somewhat innocently. Bear chuckled softly behind his mask and Sarutobi smiled. "I will not make any promises to you, Sakura. All people who graduated but washed back are given a chance to get back into the elite once they complete the remedial course. If you make it back, it has to be on your own merits." Sakura smiled softly for the first time in days. A chance was something she had not even hoped for. But earning it would be worth more to her now with all she had gone through. She had come to value achievement through working for it. For years she had seen her future as a given but come up short due to a lack of effort. Now, she was better. "I'll keep an eye on Naruto for you, Hokage-sama." Sarutobi had been pleased with the meeting and set the details for informing him if something came up. This afternoon a message came that something had happened. Naruto had been asked to remain behind. Messages from Sakura, Kat and finally Ayame arrived quickly. He was proud of them all for trusting an old man and proving his trust in them. He wished Asuma had been as accommodating. "Damn it, Dad, I just got in from dinner with my team. We ran into Naruto and Sakura. Those two are worn out. I don't know what kind of hell they are going through in that remedial class, but it is way beyond what normal Genin should be getting. I know it is. I have cat keeping an eye on them. She is keeping me informed. Asuma growled. Informed is one thing, Dad. They are going to break on you and your whole gambit is going to go down in flames. If I didn't know Sakura was acting about how she would be going into the legions, I would have believed her. Sarutobi went into a secret panel on his desk and pulled out a folder. Asuma, look at this list. This is the list of people that Man Koga was working with. We have confirmed over 3 dozen root members since then, and that does not include current shinobi. If they rise up against Konoha, the results could be devastating. I have so few people I can trust involved in this that I do not know if I will even wake up in the morning. I need to think of Konoha as a whole. If Root takes this place, over hundreds, thousands will die in wars started by that lunatic. He has been working in the shadows for decades, hidden from me, hidden from Minato. Several members of the clan council are on that list, Asuma. If I am forced to risk the lives of 2 genin, even if one is Minato's boy, in order to keep thousands of ninja and tens of thousands of civilians safe and happy, then I will do so. I may not like myself afterwards and I will pay for my choices with Kami, but I will do what needs to be done for the benefit of the greatest number of people. Asuma watched as his father was both a strong leader and a tired old man as he spoke. I have done much worse than this in my lifetime, Asuma. I just pray that the path I set finds them safe at the end of it. I would rather it was me taking the risk, but even I cannot do everything. Naruto slid into the police contraband warehouse with more ease than he had expected. The key code he had been given for the door worked as he was told. There were few guards on the buildings as Chunin and Genin squads had taken over most of the security duties that police used to handle before the Uchiha massacre. His only real concern was the random Anbu patrols in the area. He found the box he needed quickly and removed the items. This was much easier than it had been getting into the tower for the scroll for Mizuki. He just reminded himself he was doing this for the Hokage to get the true thieves and traitors. Voices outside the door made him stop and wait. A team was now guarding the door and he was trapped. He had taken too long. He slid a short distance away to a point where he could not be seen if it opened and listened. Time crept by slowly. He needed to get this to the meeting point in order to succeed. He barely heard a faint tinkle of breaking glass. Footsteps leaving the door stirred him to action. He moved back to the main door and listened. Silence. He keyed in the code and the door opened. With no noise he slipped out the door and closed it behind him. Then he was moving away to become one with the shadows and his escape. He barely made it to the meeting point in time. Place the items on the ground and leave, Uzumaki. You will be contacted soon. Naruto could only nod and leave to head back to his apartment. He avoided all the patrols he could detect, but he never noticed one shadow. Bright green eyes watched him from it and a stray thought crossed the mind behind them. What the hell are you playing at, Naruto? Naruto stifled another yawn as he waited for the instructor to continue with the lessons. He already had done 3 sets of push-ups for yawning in class today. He really did not want any others. 1 more week to go and the remedial class would be completed. He was confident in his abilities now and his chakra control was good enough that he could create as few as 5 perfect clones. Daily exercises with chakra use were routine to him now. The morning obstacle course was done over stations surrounded by 2 feet of water instead of sand. The leaping and jumping without falling in was not difficult. But the crawling along the surface without falling in was always a challenge even for the best of them. Even Sakura had fallen in off and on that one. He wondered why he was so tired lately. Sakura was also feeling the edges of exhaustion by mid-afternoon. None of the other students seemed as tired as the pair of them. It had been growing worse since his secret mission for the person he never saw. More often than not, he carried Sakura home at night while she slept against his back. A kunai embedded into the desk before him. Uzumaki. Wake up. I guess you want a record number of punishments in one day, don't you? Since Haruno was sitting with her eyes closed as well, she can join you. Yes, sir. Both Genin said as they began doing the required push-ups and counting each one out loud. I want both of you to remain after class today. We need to discuss your behavior. Hours later and even more tired, Naruto and Sakura were waiting for the instructor to come in. They had already been waiting for a half hour when the man walked in. Good. Neither of you is sitting down. You are not as dumb as some of the students I have had. Now, what the hell is wrong with both of you? The past few weeks you both have been slipping up badly. You are falling asleep in class and I have seen Uzumaki carrying you home almost every night, Haruno. Are you eating right? Are you not sleeping at night? What is going on? Sakura answered first. I don't know, sir. I have been getting 9, sometimes 10 hours of sleep a night and I have been eating twice as much as I did in my academy days. I am good in the morning but as the day goes by, I am just more and more worn out. I feel the same way, sir. I am not as tired as Sakura is but by the end of the day I feel like I have been training all day without eating. I have seconds at lunch and I still have no energy. The instructor nodded. He was a veteran Chunin with over 18 years of service. He knew these kids should never have been in the remedial program, they were too good for that. Over the years, he had developed a sense about these things. They could easily get back into the elite program by finishing in the top of this class. But over the past month, both had been slowly sliding down in the rankings. Not from getting worse but from not improving as fast as they had early on, so the others were slowly passing them. At this point, they were on the borderline on making it back into elite. He had seen that happen before to good students getting washed back into remedial training. Starting off well, them slowly falling behind as the others grew faster in ability. They never got back to elite status and simply vanished into the thousands of ordinary ninja. Both Uzumaki and Haruno seemed to be suffering from borderline chakra exhaustion. But he had not had the class doing chakra exercises today. He rubbed his chin as he thought. If they had not used chakra it would be building back up. But if their chakra kept draining, it had to be something else. Both of you strip down to your underwear, he finally said. Here, sir. Sakura stammered as she blushed. Yes, here, Haruno. Now, consider it a training exercise to get over modesty. It might come up on a mission that you need to be unclothed around others. Just do it. Yes, sir, both replied and somewhat shakily both pulled off their uniforms. In minutes, Naruto stood in his boxers and t-shirt while Sakura was in just her panties and a camisole top. Naruto averted his eyes as much as he could but he was still tempted to peek. His nose started to itch terribly and he felt something else happen before he finally just turned away from Sakura entirely. Sakura blushed badly when she saw Naruto peeking over at her and frowned when he turned away. He must think she was ugly. Sure, she was not as built as Ino was but still he didn't have to look away. Naruto looked over at the instructor. Sir, may I sit please? The instructor looked at Naruto and chuckled. Oh, to be 13 again. The raging hormones of puberty I could do without but I guess he is only human in his reaction. He glanced at Sakura who was trying to hide in plain sight, and straight as well. Fine. Both of you can sit. I'll be back in a few minutes. The instructor picked up the uniforms and left. The teens sat in silence as the minutes ticked by. Naruto had turned in his seat slightly so Sakura could see more of his back than his side. Naruto had his hands folded on his lap and just sat still, looking away from her. Is something wrong, Naruto? She finally asked. No, he replied in a strained voice. Sakura grumbled. She knew something was wrong so she did what she always did when something bothered her, she thought about it. He rubbed his nose then turned away from me and will not look anymore. He did it after I took off my uniform. Oh gross. She looked down at herself. Maybe she was not as bad looking as she thought and smiled slightly before getting an evil twinkle in her eye. Naruto stood in front of the line facing Iruka. Make a henge, Naruto. Naruto vanished in a puff of smoke. What appeared out of it was a buxom blonde girl with long pigtails. She pouted and bit her lip at Iruka, who then flew back with blood spewing from his nose. Naruto was almost calmed down when a soft little girl-sounding voice whispered in his ear, "Naruto-kun, don't you want to look at me anymore?" Naruto paled, then blushed darker than ever. Visions danced before his eyes before darkness fell. Sakura giggled as Naruto's nose seemed to spew blood before the blonde passed out. Well, at least he likes girls, she thought as she sat back down. Sasuke never reacted like that to anyone. The instructor returned after roughly a half hour. He saw both teens looking much more alert than they had in class only an hour before. Naruto was frantically wiping up a stain while Sakura studiously ignored him. Teenagers, even as ninja they're still teenagers, he thought, holding in a chuckle. He tossed the clothes back to Naruto and Sakura. Wash those tonight and wear them again tomorrow. Bring any other uniforms you have with you to this address after class tomorrow. He passed them each a business card. Sir? Sakura began to ask. No questions. It was an order, Haruno. Follow the order and ask no questions. The instructor raised an eyebrow as he spoke. Do you understand? Yes, sir, the teens replied as he sent them off. The instructor frowned as he watched them leave. Why would a pair of washed-out elites have low-end chakra-restricting seals sewn into their uniforms? He thought for a long time on it. Only prisoners have something like that. It was not enough of a restriction to stop them, just hinder them. Someone wants these kids to fail to make it back into elite. He would go stop at the clothing shop tonight to see his old classmate before going home. His friend had made Anbu before suffering a career-ending injury. It had been a long time since they went out for drinks together. The following day in class, Naruto and Sakura were almost hyperactive. Neither one cared about it because they were glad to not be falling asleep. The instructor knew that something seriously wrong was going on, so he decided that he needed to poke his nose into the file room before going to see his buddy with the kids. He looked through his own personal class notes for elites that he remembered as failing the remedial class. He only had 2 or 3 in the years he had been an instructor in this program. Looking at it now with a recent knowledge of a pattern, he could see it quite easily. He went to the main file room for the training center to see where those students had ended up. The file room was rather large as a good number of elite program trainees came through this center. He looked for the one he had 2 years before but was puzzled when the file he was looking for was not there. That is strange, I know he graduated. I passed him after all. His name is not even on the graduation list in this file now.